Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Mosaic Coffee Chat. Our guest today is David Gilmore from DG Legal, a fellow Leicester City fan, so always welcome to have another of those among our group. And David, as we often do on these coffee breaks, if you don't mind starting with telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into the legal sector, and what DG Legal mostly does.
Thanks very much, Nigel. So I guess my background is a mixture, really. I started off in banking. I was the branch manager for what used to be known as Abbey National, now Santander. Then I went to Marks and Spencer's, where I was a store manager. And then I committed career suicide to go to the Legal Aid Board in the 1990s. And I spent a few years there before setting up my own business in 2000. So we've been going for 22 years now. And my primary business is called DG Legal. And DG Legal is one of the larger providers of strategic and compliance advice operating in England and Wales. We have 25 consultants, and we provide a variety of different services, usually on what we call a retainer basis, but also on an ad hoc basis.
That's one heck of a varied career path, David. Now, you're going to talk to us in a little while about data disasters and how to avoid them, which is something that all of our clients will be acutely aware of. But before I ask you to begin on that, I just wondered if any of my colleagues have ever had a data disaster. Have you ever faced any such issues?
Not exactly a data disaster, but I've actually had my website hacked by some spam only about a month ago, and I've only just discovered it, whereby if you search for me, it takes you to some sort of supplement business in Australia, and it's taken me some time to actually work out what's happened and how to put it right, and literally in the process of putting it right now.
Wow. And it won't have cost you anything yet, Howard, apart from time and trouble.
Yes, and probably no longer being on the front page of Google's search engine when you search for Family Business Advisor. And that's the thing that worries me the most, in that will I, once I've solved this, will I go back to the top of the search engine results?
Yeah.
It's going to cost a demand for Bitcoin to get control back or something.
No, not been that. No, luckily not.
Right.
And
Well,
the person I've found, Jen's found for me, seems to be able to solve it for about £500.
Oh, well,
it's still annoying, isn't it? Now,
it is. Yeah.
We're fortunate we've not had it, but I think the word is probably fortunate. Yeah, we put in place what we hope and are advised is the right protections to have, but it's worrying.
Well,
I'd go along with you, Mark. I think we've been fortunate.
Yeah. But my problem seems to come down to the fact that I haven't had dual factor authentication on my website. Which to an extent I've resisted because it's such a pain having to go through the dual factor through the exercise. But no doubt, David, you'll be talking us through that and why it's so important.
I think, David, when we think of data disasters, we think of hacking, we think of people getting into our bank accounts, we think of phishing, but what are you seeing out there, and what does DG Legal do to help their clients avoid data disasters?
Well, I suppose the one thing that we try and push as much as possible is prevention. So, we have done a number of different webinars on this subject, which are free of charge and are available on our website. We all know that saying, it's a little bit hackneyed, isn't it? But prevention is cheaper than cure. So I think it is very much about making sure that all staff are trained and they are aware of what the major risks are out there and what they can do to prevent them. And what I'd like to do is really talk about the three major threats. Of course, you've mentioned phishing. There's also ransomware. And I think number one, top of the list, I would say, is probably about email. And that's email being sent to the wrong person. Now, whilst the impact of that may not necessarily be terrible, in certain cases it can be. So, Nigel, is it okay if I start off with email?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say that's one that scares me, because autofill is a lovely thing, but I've not done it for a while. But yeah, hand on heart, I had 2 deals on once, both of which had an accountant called Mike. And
Yeah, I think if we're honest, I think we've all done it. I don't know anybody that hasn't done it at some point. I've certainly done it on 2 or 3 occasions, and I'm lucky the data that I hold is not as sensitive as the data that lawyers hold. So if I send details of a training course to the wrong person, you know, the implications aren't particularly grave. But if you're a family lawyer or a crime lawyer, then of course it can be very nerve-wracking. And I'd just like to start by talking about one recent true story, which led to, I think, a positive outcome for us at DG Legal anyway, in helping other clients. And this was a family firm that was representing a victim of domestic violence. And on the other side of the case was the ex-husband, who was representing himself. Now, the partner who was running the case took care to make sure that she didn't misaddress any email, took extreme care, and the firm won the case. The ex-partner, as is his right, challenged the costs, and in challenging the costs, asked the law firm for certain documents. Now, the family lawyer sent some documents over to the ex-husband, and unfortunately, amongst those documents was a disbursement voucher which had the client's name and address. Now, this client had already moved address twice before this had happened, so this was a 3rd occasion. And to make matters worse, her job was data protection officer for the local council. So it couldn't really have been much worse, really. And this firm had to pay out quite a lot of money to fund her moving expenses and also some monetary compensation as well. So that led us to design an Outlook add-in, which we hope, you know, minimises to some degree the chance of making a huge mistake. So the purpose of this pop-up email checker is to remind you after you've pressed the send button, are these the correct recipients? And also, are the attachments the correct attachments? And you can click to preview each attachment to make sure there isn't information in those attachments that you wouldn't want the recipient to see. And if anybody watching this wants to get hold of this attachment, we do distribute it free of charge, and I should expect there's no malware or spyware in there. It's just a very simple, inexpensive, well, it's free solution which anybody can use. It doesn't completely fix the issue, of course, but it makes it a little bit harder to make a mistake. There are other solutions. So there are more sophisticated software solutions out there which analyze the content of the email, the content of the attachments. That can be a little expensive, but there are some quite complex solutions out there. There are some very easy alternative solutions. So, for example, some of our clients disable the address autocomplete field. Now, depending on the culture of the firm, that may be hugely unpopular because we're all so used to using the autocomplete field. It saves us so much time that I think most firms would have a mutiny if they tried to disable that field.
Also, David, I mean, to me, the issue then is that I could see that, but also then if someone's got quite a long and complex email address, you're then creating a potential issue of mistyping it if you're having to put it in every time. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't disable it myself. I just think it's such a convenience. I think you've just got to discipline yourself, if you're not using software, just to stare at the screen for a few seconds and be absolutely sure before you press the send button.
David, it might be a very simple question, but is there a way that you can delete the autocorrect email addresses in there? I just have in mind if somebody moves firms, I seem to get stuck with their old firm's address and their new firm's address, and sometimes I'll click on their old firm's address. Is there any way you can actually remove? It sounds a simple question, but I've never tried to do it, to remove the old autocomplete addresses.
Well, there's 2 things you can do. One, when you start typing the email address and it suggests what that email address should be, what you should do is you hover your mouse over it and a little cross should appear. You click on the
Oh.
cross, and that should work.
And that removes it permanently, does it?
It's supposed to remove it permanently. If that doesn't
Right.
work, you can also try going into your contacts and amending contacts. So delete the email address that used to be there, that you used to use, I should say.
I've tried to do that, and that doesn't seem to have worked. But that's a useful tip. Lovely, thank you.
The other thing you can do, I suppose one last point, is that I think we've all had at some point the feeling that as soon as we press the send button, oh dear, I've made a mistake, I should have added something, I should have deleted something, blah, 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 blah. The other thing you can do, which some organisations do, is to play with the settings, the server settings of email, so that you only send emails on the hour, every hour, for instance. I do know a small number of organisations that actually, from a time management perspective, they delay. I should say they only have 2 windows for sending and receiving emails. They have one between 8 AM and 10 AM, and another one between 3 PM and 5 PM. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but I've seen people do that, because I think, you know, if you've got a deadline or something urgent happens and you haven't received that email, it seems to me to not be particularly great.
No.
But it kind of works.
Yeah.
That's very useful, because it did strike me, because having like us all done this once or twice, that there should be some software out there that either says, are you sure? Or I like the idea of it being able to analyze the email chain and going, are you sure that's the right Mike you're sending this to, or the right Dave, or whatever. Now, you're saying that that sort of software is out there, but at a price. Yours is free, but the more sophisticated ones are at a price.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I'll put my hand up and ask for the free one, please, David.
Yes, please. Yes, as well, please. Yes.
So,
yes.
David, that was very, very helpful, very informative, and I think you've got a number of sales for your free software there. We'd all be delighted to receive that. So, in our next coffee break chat, David's going to be talking to us about other data disasters, things such as cyber attacks and phishing and ransomware. And join us again, please, everybody, in a couple of weeks' time when that broadcast is, when that webinar is broadcast. See you all soon.
See you soon.